Imagine this. In October 30th, 1938, a quiet Sunday evening in America. Families gathered around their radios, listening to music when suddenly, breaking news interrupts. Martians have landed in New Jersey. They're destroying everything in their path with death rays. People are screaming, fleeing, dying. Across the nation, panic erupts. Phone lines jam as terrified citizens call police. Some grab their belongings and flee their homes. Others barricade themselves inside, waiting for the end of the world. But here's the twist. None of it was real. It was just a radio play by a 23-year-old named Orson Welles, adapting H.G. Wells's War of the Worlds. Yet in that single broadcast, millions of people experienced genuine terror from something that existed only in their minds. This wasn't just entertainment gone wrong. It was an accidental demonstration of humanity's most powerful weakness, our susceptibility to fear-based manipulation. And tonight, I'm going to show you exactly how this invisible puppet master controls your thoughts, your decisions, and your life. Deep inside your skull, nestled behind your eyes, sits a small almond-shaped structure called the amygdala. This is your brain's alarm system, evolved over millions of years to keep you alive. When our ancestors heard rustling in the bushes, the amygdala fired instantly. Fight, flight, or freeze. Those who hesitated became dinner. But here's where it gets fascinating and terrifying. Your amygdala can't tell the difference between a real saber-toothed tiger and a scary news headline. It responds to both with the same primal intensity. Within milliseconds, faster than conscious thought, it floods your system with stress hormones, hijacking your rational mind. This is why that War of the Worlds broadcast was so effective. The realistic news bulletin format bypassed people's critical thinking and spoke directly to their ancient survival instincts. The amygdala heard invasion and death rays and screamed danger before the prefrontal cortex could whisper, "But wait, this might be fiction." Modern manipulators understand this biological loophole better than you do. They know that a frightened brain is a compliant brain. When you're scared, you don't think clearly, you react. And that reaction can be predicted, controlled, and exploited. Let me tell you about 3 moments in history when fear became a weapon of mass control. First, Salem, Massachusetts, 1692. A few young girls claimed to be possessed by witches. Within months, this small spark of fear ignited a wildfire of paranoia that consumed an entire community. Neighbors turned against neighbors. 20 people died. Why? Because fear spreads faster than facts, and once it takes hold, reason becomes the enemy. Fast forward to the 1930s in Germany, a struggling nation, humiliated by war, desperate for answers. Enter a master manipulator who understood that frightened people crave simple solutions to complex problems. He painted vivid pictures of internal and external enemies, all threatening the German way of life. The propaganda machine didn't just spread information, it weaponized emotion. Fear became the foundation of one of history's darkest chapters. Then came the 1950s in America. Senator Joseph McCarthy stood before microphones, waving papers he claimed contained the names of communist infiltrators. The Red Scare wasn't just about politics. It was about creating an atmosphere where questioning authority became unpatriotic, where conformity felt safer than courage. Careers were destroyed, lives ruined, all based on fear of an enemy that existed more in imagination than reality. Notice the pattern? In each case, the manipulators followed the same playbook. Identify a threat, amplify the fear, position themselves as the solution, and watch as rational people make irrational choices. Now, let's talk about today. You wake up, check your phone, and within seconds, your amygdala is under assault. Social media algorithms have perfected what those historical manipulators could only dream of. Personalized, targeted fear delivery 24 hours a day. Here's how it works. Every click, every pause, every scroll tells the algorithm something about you. It learns your fears, your biases, your triggers. Then it feeds you content designed to keep you engaged, and nothing engages like fear, outrage, anxiety, the feeling that the world is falling apart and you need to stay informed to survive. This creates what psychologists call an echo chamber, a digital prison where you only hear information that confirms your existing fears and beliefs. The algorithm shows you more of what scares you, because scared people click more, share more, stay online longer. Your fear becomes their profit. But here's the truly insidious part. This isn't random. It's the availability heuristic in action. The more often you see something, the more likely you think it is to happen. If your feed is full of crime stories, you overestimate crime rates. If it's full of disaster news, you overestimate the likelihood of disasters. Your perception of reality becomes warped by the frequency of your digital exposure. Consider this. Statistically, we're living in the safest, most prosperous time in human history, yet anxiety and depression rates are skyrocketing. Why? Because our Stone Age brains are being bombarded with information about every tragedy, every threat, every possible danger from around the globe, 24/7. Let me break down the modern fear manipulator's toolkit. First, there's the fear appeal, highlighting potential dangers to influence behavior. Insurance companies master this. What if you get sick and can't afford treatment? What if your house burns down? They're not selling insurance. They're selling peace of mind for manufactured anxiety. Then there's catastrophizing, taking a small risk and blowing it out of proportion. Politicians excel at this. If we don't act now, everything you care about will be destroyed. They transform manageable problems into existential threats. Next is social proof under pressure, showing you that everyone else is afraid too. News outlets love this. Millions of Americans are worried about. They create artificial consensus around fear, making you feel like you're part of a frightened majority. There's also urgency creation, the ticking clock technique. Act now before it's too late. Whether it's a limited time offer or a political deadline, urgency bypasses your rational decision-making process. Finally, there's solution monopolization, positioning themselves as the only answer to the fear they've created. Only we can protect you from this threat. They become your savior from the very danger they've amplified. Let me tell you about Anna, a 34-year-old teacher from Ohio. In 2019, she was living a normal life, teaching kids, spending time with family, planning a vacation. Then the pandemic hit, and with it, a tsunami of conflicting information. Anna started checking news constantly. First thing in the morning, last thing at night. Her social media feeds became a stream of terrifying statistics, conspiracy theories, and doomsday predictions. She couldn't sleep. She stopped seeing friends. She hoarded supplies. She lived in constant fear of invisible threats. But here's what's fascinating. Anna wasn't responding to the actual virus. She was responding to the fear amplification machine. The real danger was manageable with proper precautions. but the psychological manipulation made it feel apocalyptic. Anna's story isn't unique. Millions of people experienced similar fear-induced paralysis, not from the actual threat, but from the way that threat was packaged and delivered to their amygdala. The manipulation was so effective that even when the acute phase passed, many people couldn't return to normal. They'd been psychologically rewired by sustained fear exposure. So how do you break free from this invisible control? First, understand that awareness is your superpower. When you recognize manipulation tactics, they lose their power over you. Practice the pause protocol. When you feel that surge of fear or outrage, stop. Take 3 deep breaths. Ask yourself, who benefits from me feeling this way? What am I being asked to do? Is this fear proportional to the actual threat? Diversify your information diet. If all your news comes from sources that make you angry or afraid, you're being manipulated. Seek out calm, factual reporting. Remember, if it's designed to make you feel something, it's probably designed to make you do something. Create fear-free zones in your life. Designate times and spaces where you disconnect from the manipulation machine. Your bedroom, your meals, your family time. Protect these sacred spaces from the fear merchants. Most importantly, remember that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's action in spite of fear. The manipulators want you paralyzed, compliant, dependent. Your power lies in thinking clearly, acting rationally, and refusing to let fear make your decisions. But here's what the fear merchants don't want you to know. There's something they're more afraid of than you are of their manufactured threats. They're terrified of you discovering your own power. They're terrified of you thinking for yourself. They're terrified of you realizing that most of what they've taught you to fear isn't real. Because once you see the strings, you can never unsee them. Once you understand the game, you can never be played the same way again. And once enough people wake up to this manipulation, the whole system of control begins to crumble. The question isn't whether you'll encounter fear-based manipulation again. You will, probably before this video ends. The question is, now that you know how the puppet master operates, will you dance to their tune, or will you cut the strings? The choice, as it always has been, is yours. But choose wisely, because someone, somewhere, is counting on you to choose fear. Sweet dreams.